If you're early on in your sourdough bread journey, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Head on over to the sourdough subreddit and you'll see lots of stuff about stretch and folds, coil folds, cold retarding, auto leasing, proper shaping, cast iron, pizza stones, discard recipes, the list goes on and on. I started off that way. I've made just about every recipe in flour, water, salt, yeast. I've made some killer bread, and then I got burned out. Babysitting bread dough all day to do stretch and folds really isn't my thing. So I started subtracting steps and came up with my own super lazy method. I'm back, and with something I actually know how to do, yay! So we're giving this a 5 out of 5 since I know that this won't be a hot mess train wreck of a project. After I burned out from making perfect bread, I did a little thinking. If you've got a degree in business, you've probably heard of the 80-20 rule. This states that 20% of the causes drive about 80% of the outcomes. Those numbers may vary, but you get the idea. It's used in a lot of different industries. There's like a supermarket industry maxim that states that 20% of the products provide 80% of the profits. In computer science, it's been applied to optimization efforts, and it's used in investing too. Anyway, it's a good reminder that sometimes just a fraction of the effort can get you most of the way there. And personally, I'm fine with making bread that's 80% good. A loaf of homemade mediocre sourdough is still like 10 times better than anything you get in the bread aisle at the grocery store. So I set out to determine which 20% of the steps that I was using were actually necessary for a loaf of bread, and I left the rest behind. So we're going to call this 80-20 bread, also known as good enough sourdough. If you've looked into making sourdough, you know that starter is the first step. It's how you build those bubbly little yeasts that are happy to help you make the bread rise. Making a starter sounds like this. Mix 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour. Put it in a jar, let it set. Day 2, remove half. Add 50 grams of fresh flour and 50 grams of fresh water. Day 3, remove half. Add 50 grams fresh flour and 50 grams fresh water. Day 4, remove half. Add 50 grams fresh flour, 50 grams fresh water. Day 5, remove half. Add 50 grams fresh flour, 50 grams fresh water. Day 6, remove half. Add 50 grams fresh flour, 50 grams fresh water. If you saw my acorn processing video, you know I'm not that patient. Now, if you're one of those kids who did extra credit even when you were already making an A in class, go ahead and make your own starter. I'm proud of you. If you were a kid like me, well, I did the math to figure out the bare minimum that I needed to study for the final exam and still get a good grade. So if you're like me, don't make your own starter. There are plenty of bakers around you who already have active starters, and you can just ask for a pinch of theirs. Hit up your coworkers, leave a note in the break room or something. Ask bakers in your life. Re-download Facebook or Nextdoor and ask people in your area. I know, but you can delete the app again as soon as you're done. I've even heard of some bakeries who will sell small jars of starters, or you can buy dehydrated starter online. Just trust me on this one. Making your own starter is not worth it. Your sourdough starter is the newest member of your family. Congratulations! Give it some time to acclimate, feed it a little bit, and leave it alone. By that, I just mean leave it out on your counter. After 2 or 3 days, dump some out and give it fresh flour and water, and let it sit out for another couple days. Just kind of inspect it and learn what it looks like when it's rising. Get used to it and let it get used to your kitchen. And then you've got a choice. If you don't want to use it right away, dump most of it out and give it about a cup of fresh flour and some water and throw it in the fridge. But if you do want to use it, let's bake. Now, my starter has been sitting in the fridge for a week, so I need to pull it out and let it warm up. After it's been sitting on the counter for about a day and it's nice and bubbly, we mix stuff together. I'm making a double loaf recipe, so this is what I use. 800 to 900 grams of flour. I use whatever I've got. This means it's usually the big sacks of all-purpose flour from Costco. 1 tablespoon of salt. 2 tablespoons of a light-flavored oil. This is optional, and I usually just glug a couple of glugs out of the container. And about a cup of my sourdough starter. I pretty much just shake out whatever's in the container. Some water. We're doing a high hydration mix. I don't know how much water that ends up being, I just kind of add a bunch until it feels right. This water is lukewarm, but that's just because I'm a wuss about my hands getting cold. I've used different temperatures of water. As long as it's not hot enough to kill your yeast, just about anything should work. The hydration I'm shooting for is kind of like slime. Like if your kids play with slime, you know what I'm talking about. Fairly thin, but not nearly as thin as cake dough. You should still be able to stretch it out without it blooping or falling out of your hands or running in between your fingers. I've made it stiffer, and I've also made it a little bit wetter than this before. Either way, it's going to be okay. When you're done with this, put a cup or so of flour and some water back in the yeast container, and mix it up with the old starter that's still stuck to the sides. If you're less of a goblin than me, once you've mixed it all with the remnants of the old starter, you should put it in a clean jar. But hey, you're watching a channel called Dirt Architect, so I didn't do that this time. Cover your dough with a wet towel and walk away. I made that dough yesterday around noon. It's now 8 a.m. and I'm going to check it. Ta-da! It's about double. It's super bubbly. If your house is cold, it might take over 20 hours. If it's warm, you might want to start checking it quite a bit earlier. But this isn't one of those breads that goes from underproofed to overproofed in minutes. You've got wiggle room. The first time you make your sourdough, start checking it, I don't know, like 15 hours in, see how it's looking. You'll figure out the timing pretty quickly. Now throw it into 2 greased loaf pans. No, I don't shape it. I just throw it in. Then cover it with a wet towel again. Wait a couple hours. I think I put this in the oven around 11 a.m., so 3 hours. I preheated the oven to 425. If you like a darker, crustier crust, bump that up a little bit, maybe to 450. My kids like a lighter crust though, so 425 works great for us. I left it in for 42 minutes since that's one of my favorite numbers and it usually works out fine. Play with your timing. I'd say that for your first couple loaves, try to do this on a day off, just so you can monitor it for a bit and get a feel for your rise times. I usually mix my ingredients around 8 o'clock one evening, and then have everything baking by 8 o'clock the next night. Depending on your room temperature and how much starter you use, your timing will vary. And now, bread. It's a good sandwich loaf. It's soft on the inside and crusty on the outside, and it's got some sourdough flavor, but it's not too intense. I also like that it's got smaller holes in it than the traditional stretch and fold sourdough. That means that my jam from my PB&J doesn't drip out the holes onto my lap. Is it an Instagram-worthy, crusty loaf with a spiral and a perfectly shaped ear? No. It's 80-20 good enough bread. Master the good enough bread first, and then when it's a fancy occasion and you've got all day to bread babysit, then you can make your first 100% loaf. But for everyday eating, the 80-20 bread isn't just good, it's good enough.